All right. We are beginning another Arise podcast, and I am super excited to be with Lindsay Miedema. I have heard her name bounce around my circles for a little while, and after checking out her website, I believe that she would be an incredible asset to the church and to every listener to understand. I don't actually want to say what she all does because I was looking at her website and it's an awful lot of things. I know that she has a focus on disordered eating or eating disorder. We'll talk about those terms in the future. But thank you, Lindsay, for joining us. I would love to welcome you to the podcast by starting with an introduction about yourself, how much you are comfortable sharing, but we'd love
Mhm.
to get to know you and then kind of lean into how you got into what you're doing now and why. So welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here. It's always fun to talk about my work, so
Good,
appreciate it.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Lindsay.
Yeah, I grew up in Hamilton and I'm still living in Hamilton, so born and raised, and I haven't moved too far. I love the city. I do work online and in person with folks. I've been a social worker now for over 10 years, 10 to 15 years. Yeah, I would say I had to think about
Okay.
that. If you would like to hear more about like my background with social work, I did start off working in women's shelters
Hmm.
and doing work like that downtown Hamilton. And that really sparked my interest in wanting to go to social work because I really loved the work there. And then from there, it kind of all snowballed, and it's amazing how things kind of are together. I did do a brief stint in children's aid. But from there, I really, afterwards, I found a job in counseling and therapy, and that was where my niche was.
Okay.
Really loved doing that, meeting one on one. I did start off with working a lot with children. Um, really enjoyed that. Then I did kind of go into more trauma focused work. So that is my background in my training is more trauma focused. So did a lot of post trauma work and therapy after motor vehicle accidents. I've also done like a stint in hospitals and done social work in hospitals and really enjoyed my work there. But I always found my way back to therapy. And so now I am doing just one to one therapy right now, and I do love it. Yeah.
Wow, girl.
Hmm.
Like you have had the whole gamut and
Yeah.
starting with women. And I can see that in the shelters, kind of even where you would lean towards the Children's Aid Society as such, working with children
Mhm.
and then the hospital. So
Mhm.
you have all the spheres. So if you were going to tell someone what you do daily,
Mhm.
what would that look like?
Yeah, daily. So I work in a clinic downtown on James Street North, Carly Crawford Psychotherapy, and I mainly specialize in meeting with folks who struggle with disordered eating. My goal is just to help them heal their relationship with food. Food is complicated, very, very complicated. And so I do a lot of work with that and with also with folks who have diagnosed eating disorders. Along with that, too, though, I do work with anxiety and with trauma. But some of that can always mix together.
Mhm.
But those are my basic, like, those are kind of my niche
Mhm.
practices I work with. I do some online and in person.
Okay, so the focus is eating disorders because I'm looking at your website and there's
Hmm.
ADHD, autism, executive
Yes.
functioning differences, and so on.
Yeah.
How does that fit in, or is that all tied in?
It is all, it
Okay.
absolutely, it's completely tied in. I found that when I was working with some folks with disordered eating or with eating disorders, that sometimes uh, being neurodivergent, so maybe having ADHD, or if you're autistic, for autistic folks, that also had a play in
Mhm.
there. So working with those where they were labeled as disordered eating, but it was also part of their way of being and a way of their how their brain worked and functioned.
Mhm.
So that led me into that. I also lead also honestly, it's from my clients. I learn from my clients. It's been clients saying to me like, Lindsay, I've been told that I've been disordered all my life, and but this is the way that my brain functions and needs. I need more. I need help, and no one understands me, right?
Yeah.
So then I go into. So
Yeah.
then I do a lot of work with um, helping folks with sensory issues and um, struggles with executive functioning with food, right? So there's so many different areas of food, and it's complicated,
Yeah.
right? We have lots. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could keep going. Yeah.
I got questions coming out of just
Yeah.
from even people
Yes.
that I know. Like I'm thinking of someone that was in our home for a while that ate everything that was in front of her as a child,
Right. Okay.
but she
Mhm.
didn't know, right? She was too young to be aware that that would cause different circumstances. And from the trauma that
Mhm.
she experienced, there were probably some parts of
Mhm.
that. And then how do you
Mhm.
parent that? And, there's so many parts. So I'm totally getting the whole picture of how it's all intertwined. I just want to go back
Mhm.
though, Lindsay,
Yeah.
because I know that there's different terms that people use. And I want, if you're able to kind of explain the
Yeah.
differences. So why do some people say disordered eating and some people say eating disorders? Eating.
Ooh, that's a very good question. Yeah. Um, so I think that with disordered eating, it has a lot to do with diet culture. So diet culture, basically, I'll explain that if that is that
Yeah.
helpful? Yeah.
Yeah.
So diet culture basically equates thinness as your goal in life, right? To achieve thinness. That thinness is only achieved by willpower, by what you eat and how you move your body. And if you're not thin, you are not worthy. And I think that there's also been some other like layers of like guilt and morality on
Mm,
what we eat as Christians, right? And so that's all intertwined.
yeah.
When we have a formal diagnosis of an eating disorder, there's a few different kinds of eating disorders, right? So um, they're more where sometimes it's like the DSM, like where the like a formal diagnosis where you check off like boxes for symptoms, right? So we have anorexia nervosa, which is where you are severely underweight, and it's high, extreme restriction, right? Where you have significant health problems with that,
Mhm.
right? So disordered eating sometimes doesn't lead to some of all
Mm,
of that, right?
mhm,
All of the physical symptoms. It doesn't mean that you're not struggling though, right? It doesn't
yeah.
mean that you're not in pain.
Mm,
But sometimes there's like labels, right? That kind of need to be put in place for us.
mm,
There's also a wide misconception that anorexia is the most common eating disorder, and it's actually not.
okay.
Um, Binge eating disorder is probably the most common, and carries the most shame for folks.
Mm,
There's also bulimia, and several other ones. There's the one that we were speaking about before, with the sensory. There's also ARFID, so that's avoidant restrictive disorder
okay.
eating. And that is more where we're talking about neurodivergent folks, right?
Yeah.
So again, sorry, there's like lots
Yeah.
of different
Yeah.
parts to
Yeah.
it. Does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If I can kind of clarify that,
Yeah.
like eating disorder is almost like a labeled
Mhm.
experience of what's happening to the body.
Mhm.
Disordered eating is
Mhm.
something that, we all can struggle with in different ways, but it doesn't have
Mm.
as large of an impact on our body. Is that fair to say, or?
Yeah, it can, I think it still does. It still does though. I guess
Okay.
it's just I think it's more of a symptom. Like I think
Okay.
disordered eating
Yeah.
is a symptom, right? Like folks who struggle with anorexia or binge eating have disordered eating, right? It's a formal eating disorder. Um, yeah, I'm probably getting all the technicalities like off.
Yeah.
Someone would
Okay.
be like, "No," but I think looking at more of disordered eating as it's not a diagnosable clinical struggle, but I don't want anyone to walk away from this podcast thinking, "Oh, I don't need help if I
Yeah.
don't meet these criteria." Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I believe I have disordered eating. I love
Mhm.
sugar. And,
Mm.
there are times when I'm stressed and I go to the wrong thing. I don't know if that, like, I feel I've got disordered eating because I've got an idol that I'm drawing towards when I should be, responding to my stress in a different way. I
Mm.
call it that, but I don't know if that's necessarily a disordered eating or if that's just something that I need to deal with and order my heart better.
Mm.
What do you want to say to that?
Yeah, I'd love to. That's a great I hear that. I hear that quite a bit. So my perspective with sugar is we have really placed morality on sugar. We're a very fearful society around sugar. There's been lots of messages about sugar and how bad it is for us and how addicting it can be. And so I offer a different perspective with that,
Okay,
is
I'd
that
love
I
to hear it.
actually, yeah, so
Yeah.
I actually think, and actually more and more studies are coming out now that they show that the fear of sugar
Hmm.
makes us go to sugar.
Hmm.
So for instance, I'll back up. So with dieting, right? With
Mhm.
restriction, with restrictive dieting says maybe you should only eat these certain amounts of foods. You
Mm.
should only have these foods, and you're not following the diet if you eat sugar. Say
Mhm.
you're doing a sugar-free diet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What we found is that actually your propensity to go and eat sugar is stronger when you start a diet. So
Oh,
the moment your brain hears no more sugar,
yeah.
your brain is wired. God has created your body very intelligently. It is wired to seek food. It is wired to survive, right?
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
we've survived all these years. And so when you tell your body, I can't have sugar, your brain goes, how can I find it? How can I find it? And I'm going to find it now. And it
Mhm.
increases the craving.
Hmm.
So that is why, like I would describe myself as, I do not prescribe diets for folks because I see that so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So more of what I suggest is intuitive eating. So intuitive eating is um, not putting morality on foods, not calling foods good or bad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Foods are
Yeah.
morally neutral, right?
Yeah.
And because it doesn't create that restriction in our brain
Mhm.
and it doesn't
Mhm.
cause us to find it.
Mhm. Mhm. I so appreciate what you're saying. I
Mhm.
have a family of fitness people and health
Mhm.
and wellness
Mhm.
and whatever else. So this is
Mhm.
a dinner table discussion often.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
exactly kind of what you said. We can't label food as good and bad, but yet we are all uniquely and fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. That there
Mhm.
will be things that are going to impact you differently than they're going to impact me,
Mm.
right? So with the
Mhm.
mind or the physical body. So
Mhm.
that's where it gets difficult to even prescribe anything upon people because, I was diagnosed years ago with fibromyalgia, which was Lyme,
Mm.
but, you know,
Mhm.
I worked with my diet to get better. And
Mm.
and it did a
Mhm.
lot of beautiful things, right? People
Mhm.
came to me and said, what did you do? And I said, I actually don't want to share it with you because this is my body and it might not be
Yeah.
for your body, right? So,
Mhm. Sure.
and I think
Well,
that's,
wow, yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's a great response.
but I think
Yeah.
that that's kind of
Yeah.
what it is for a lot of things. Correct me if I'm wrong, with
Mhm.
food, even, so our metabolism, there's so many different things that impact, but
Mhm.
that understanding of what's good and bad is so important that we just alleviate that narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, because the more we feel guilty about something and more shame,
Mhm.
right? The more that we feel that we're actually more driven to go and do it, right? So, for
Mhm.
instance, emotional eating. I feel like emotional eating has also been kind of
Mm.
spoken in a negative light a lot, right? Um, And I think that, like, God made food for us to enjoy. I think he did. I think that was the gift, right?
Yeah.
And so when we put on things like, oh, it's bad that I'm an emotional eater, I go to food for comfort. I think first when I'm working with someone, it's like, yeah, of course you are. You're seeking comfort. You're trying
Yeah.
to feel better. That makes sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, we need to leave shame at the door there a little bit. Like,
Mhm.
it is food. It's just food,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So it is like it's a top. You need to get to underline that those core beliefs of, I'm being bad because I'm eating this. Like, that
Mm.
doesn't help, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm. That's very
yeah.
interesting because,
Hmm.
where I still believe that there are things that are better for me and, you know, better for
Hmm.
me than not, right? So
Hmm.
that's where it gets tricky because
Hmm.
uh, I know that when I'm in a hard spot and I want comfort,
Hmm.
I know what I should be doing, but I also know the easy
Hmm.
route. So there, I agree with what you're saying, but it's
Hmm.
messy in the head
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Because I want to follow the Lord and I want to live for him and not just cry and you know, not deal with it properly either. And that could be for
Mhm.
me going to food. But I'm with you. I like we came home from holidays yesterday and my husband had a tub of ice cream. Let's celebrate that mom's home again, right?
Mhm.
So and that's where
Mhm.
it's difficult. And I could just continue eating the ice cream because we were celebrating that mom was home and enjoy that,
Mhm.
right? And not, but
Mhm.
there's other times where I'm like, I should not be having that ice cream. It is not good at this time. So that's that dance. But let's carry on. Lindsay, how did you get into this yourself? Why was eating disorders something that you gravitated towards?
Yeah, I would say it was definitely personal. I struggled for many years with just disordered eating, very immersed in diet culture. You name a diet, I've done it. I've done it
Okay,
all. So,
okay.
um, I say that to clients too, that, I've come from I've done it and I makes sense. We were taught a lot, right? Um, I remember reading one book one day and it was about healing your relationship with food. And the book said something like, you can eat when you're hungry. And I completely started crying. And I was like, that's okay. I can do that. Like it's all right. I don't have to delay it. I don't have to wait. I don't have to pick like the perfect food to eat. I was like, I want to live differently. Like I don't think this
Wow.
is what it was meant to be, that we should why is that so shocking for me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Wow.
So
That is.
yeah,
I'd love to hear more. Why was it so shocking? Like what was in
I
your mind that
I like that I was taught from I think from diet culture, from our society, from the way that we speak about food, that my hunger was bad, that I
wow.
had too much
Okay.
hunger, right?
Okay.
And that I wasn't hunger was something that I was supposed to delay and not have. Um, and I
Hmm.
do believe that we get that perspective, I think, uh, as women and men too. Like, let's not leave men out because they have their own pressures, and I see men for disordered eating as well. But for women in our society, right, the pressure to what does to be a woman, right, is to be thin, and the pressure to be thin and to eat little and to not celebrate our love for food. I found that that was a perspective that was very strong. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
growing up from anywhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So and I'm just curious because I'm kind of shocked by what you're saying to a certain
Mhm.
extent because I didn't struggle with that.
Okay.
So, but
Yeah.
then I'm kind of wondering where did you hear this? Like, was it in the home? Was it in your school? Like, did you feel a competitiveness even kind of growing up to be thin or, uh, yeah, like even talking to, you're dealing with men, you said too, so men and women.
Mhm.
What's that
Mhm.
culture? Where are they hearing this, and how is that narrative? Is it from social media? Is it from the family primarily? What's it coming from?
I think it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's in society. It's in our pressures. It's in our movies that we grew up watching.
Yeah,
It's in our friend groups. It's in our churches,
yeah.
right? I think
Flesh that out.
yeah.
Like in how? Like
And
what?
how?
Yeah,
Yeah, like just in like how sorry, so like in how we hear it and what we
yeah.
hear.
The pressures,
Yeah.
like you said, movie in the church. Where's it coming from? Why does a movie give that pressure?
Well, it shows that that's where if you're thin, you are worthy, you are healthy. We can talk about that later, right?
Yeah,
You're loved.
yeah,
And I do think that there is you're godly,
yeah. Wow.
right?
Okay.
Right? If
Yeah.
if you're thin, there is this perspective, this underlying nuance that if you are in a thin body, you're being morally,
Hmm,
better, right?
hmm.
I think it's a hard truth,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
do see that, right, in
Yeah.
my work, that
Yeah.
there's this underlying hard truth there that we've kind of absorbed this in some ways.
Yeah.
Do we mean to? I don't think so, but that's there.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Scary.
Yeah.
and sad. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
delve into it a little bit more as far as who's coming to you and why are they coming to you and how are they coming to you? Like, is it through a doctor's
Mm-hmm.
referral? Is it people checking
Mm-hmm.
out your website? Like, what are
Mm-hmm.
they coming for and why? Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a doctor's referral, of course, if they're, if they have a diagnosed eating disorder, um, then they need, that help, right? When you have a diagnosed eating disorder and it's affecting your life, it affects every aspect of your life. It affects, um, it's a constant noise
Hmm.
and it's really overwhelming, right? So it's of course there. Also in my work, people seek me out um, in larger bodies, right? They are folks that have been told that their bodies have been wrong all their life, right? And so um, it's about re so they're coming to me to help heal their relationship with their bodies, right? Or they've never heard in their lifetime that their body is good, right?
Mm.
Um, you can't you can't tell from the size of someone's body if they haven't disordered eating or not. You can't. But our society has kind of made these stereotypes that how you eat shows up in your body,
Mm.
right? And so I do provide a lot of education on um, you can't tell, right? You can't tell how much someone's eating by the size of their body. You really can't.
Mhm.
And there's so much evidence to point to that. And we regain how to trust our bodies and how to actually maybe even be kind to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Hmm.
I can think of someone that I know that has a larger body and
Hmm.
is very fit and very able and has
Hmm.
dealt with a lot of these things of what you're saying. So someone
Hmm.
comes to you, what
Hmm.
what what does the first conversation look like and what does the therapy and the help look like? Yeah.
So if it's a diagnosed eating disorder, like say I'll use anorexia as an example. So if they're struggling with that, then we look at how to coordinate. So they work with me and they work with also a nutritionist because that's
Okay. Okay.
that's really important to have
Yeah.
that together.
Mhm.
So something that, with eating disorders are so complex and what folks don't understand is the appointments, the amount of appointments like they have to see like if you're really struggling with an eating disorder, it's weekly appointments and more than one a week because you're working with food, like right about just getting the nutrition in and then you're also working with the therapist and you also have to go to medical checkups
Mm.
regularly, right? To check blood pressure and to check weight and how much weight loss and how your heart's doing and all those things, right? So it is a lot for someone to go through that. It is all encompassing. It's a full-time job for
Mhm.
anyone involved.
Mhm.
My work, um, I use this metaphor from a Dr. Anita Johnson, and I find it's really powerful in folks for understanding eating disorders because a lot of people say it's not just about the food, right? When someone has an eating disorder, it's not just they don't want to eat food, it's so complex, right? So Dr. Anita Johnson uses this metaphor of um, say you're in a river, okay? You're in the middle of the river and it's really wavy and you feel like you're drowning and you can't get to either side, right? You're stuck in the middle. And a log comes along, right? What are you going to do? You're going to grab the
Jump on the
log,
log.
right? You're going to grab the log, like right? Anyone would, right?
Yeah.
But for folks with an eating disorder or disordered eating, that the log represents the eating disorder.
Mm.
It's a way of coping in the midst of a lot of turmoil in your life, and it can be anything from past trauma, it can be from finding self-worth, right? It can be about finding self-control. So my work with folks is about understanding why we grabbed onto that log, what's keeping us there. It makes sense why, because we're in so much pain in the middle of the river and we don't want to drown, right?
Yeah.
But how can we let go of the log and maybe learn to tread by it, right? And maybe learn to take some strokes. And I say to clients, I'm like, I'm right here with you. Like I'm
Yeah.
breaststroking right beside you, and I'm going to come beside you. I'm going to tell you that you can let go for a few seconds, and
Yeah.
we're going to do it together, right? And how do we get to shore that way?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that can be a way.
Wow.
I like the metaphor.
I'm
Yeah.
starting to sweat because I'm feeling like
Oh,
just this.
oh no.
No, no,
Oh
in a
no.
good way. And I kind of like as you're talking about this, um, like I'm thinking about, raising my own 5 children and,
Mm,
being around with other people and so on. Like, how do I have to work on my narrative, about some of these things? Because that log
mm,
really hit me.
mm.
As someone who loves
Yeah.
to be in the water, even,
Oh,
right? And the
okay.
canoeing, camping, whatever else, that's in
Hmm.
my eyes, a massive weight and a power force. Maybe I'm thinking
Mm.
a bigger log than you are, but yet at the same time, we don't have, signs that say I'm struggling with my eating, or I'm, any condition, and because of that I'm struggling with this. So we don't know. But at the same time, I haven't experienced that. So I'd like you to help me,
Mm.
walk through, as someone who doesn't struggle with this,
Hmm.
but maybe I do. Part of me is
Mm.
like, maybe I need to go see Lindsay and get some help. I don't know. I have a lot of anaphylactic allergies, so I've actually never been on a diet as such.
Mm. Okay.
I have to stay away from some food, like that's my diet
Sure.
as such.
Of course. Of course.
Um,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking of someone that's sitting in church,
Hmm.
that is becoming more aware of how common eating disorders are and
Hmm.
disordered eating.
Hmm.
Help me with a narrative to walk alongside someone that does come to me and say, I'm struggling. Would you help me through this, Hildy? Like what? Ah,
Ooh,
what do I do
yeah.
with that log?
Mm. No, I think it's just a way of understanding why people do what they do to try to stay
That is
safe,
a great
right?
answer. Yes.
Right? Because if you just look at what the surface level, right? It
Yeah.
just kind of seems like, okay, we'll just, people say like, oh, just eat, right? Like, but it makes sense because people are trying to seek safety. They're trying to make sense of some type of pain that they're going through,
Mhm.
right? And so that's why I say to people, when they come to me and they've been doing dieting, I'm like, I get why. You're
Yeah.
trying to stay safe, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard in my field because I work with clients and then they go out and the world praises them for what they do, right?
Both
I have
sides, really.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone. Like I have
Goodness.
folks in larger bodies
Hmm.
I have folks in larger bodies who restrict and barely eat anything,
Hmm.
and they go to their doctors and their doctors say, "Please keep losing, try to keep losing weight," and they
Yeah.
have a full-fledged eating disorder.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. So sorry, I'm like off shooting
Yeah.
here, but
Yeah.
I think again the log helps people understand that we all do things to try to stay safe, right? And so thinness in our world is a way to be safe because that means that we're accepted, right? And also if you add on if you're feeling guilty and feeling shame and so if we're fed this belief that what we eat equals our worth, then that makes sense why we're grabbing onto the log. I get it, right? But how can we so I think in the church if someone were to let me back up. I think like in the church what we can do to be safe for everyone for disordered eating is to kind of pay attention to our language, right? Around food. And let's try not to put such a morality on what we eat, right?
And so
Yeah.
teach me in this, Lindsay.
Yeah.
How am I
Yeah.
doing? How am I doing in that? As far as like I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, but there is
Yeah.
food that is, that
Mhm.
fills your body, and
Mhm.
you need nutrients and minerals and so
Mhm.
on.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
good or
Yeah.
bad,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
we know we need food. and
Yes. Yes.
and we
Yeah.
there is an impact on food. So how do I talk about food with a healthy morality?
Yeah, okay. So great question. Because a lot of people say then like, well, what are you saying? I can just eat whatever I want and,
Yeah,
have, right? No,
yeah, no,
no, not what I'm saying, right?
yeah,
I think so like maybe it starts again with maybe like our language, again, as a caveat. there's no judgment here, a safe place, all is grace because we're all learning, right? And we've been fed a lot of different ideas around food. There's so many different opinions about food. Like talk to like 10 different practitioners about a banana and like there's
Yes.
different
Yes.
things about a banana.
Very good
So,
example.
right? Like
Yes.
I've heard so many rules about bananas.
Yeah, me
For
too.
ex-
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this.
Yeah.
So yes, let's do that. Okay, it's very confusing. But I will say that like we can teach our children, if we talk about teaching children when they're young, we can teach children that certain foods do different things for our bodies, right? So eggs, if we have fried eggs, they give us energy, and there's that's called protein and it gives us energy, right? Um, but we're not going but then I would, try to encourage that like if a child is eating candy, that we just don't talk bad about that, right? Candy's candy, it's fun. It's things to enjoy, right? Um, Sometimes like nutritionists suggest like for kids that you kind of neutralize dessert, that you don't have to earn your dessert. So like you have your meat and potatoes and you can have a cookie with it and it's all like neutral. I know some people will be like, "What?"
I know. I am
Like
like, I can just hear some people already.
yeah, I know. You're gonna get so many questions.
Yeah.
It feels radical, but then I want to ask like anyone who's listening, I guess, like tell me about that fear. Like, why is that fearful, right?
Mm, mm,
And we need to parse out why. Like,
mm,
why is there so much fear around that certain food, right? Um, yeah,
wow, wow,
yeah.
wow. Yeah,
Does that make
absolutely.
sense?
And I'm
Yeah,
thinking, like, my husband's often said everything in moderation,
sure, sure. Yeah.
right? But for some, moderation is this. For some, it's down. So, right. So that
Mm-hmm.
space. Okay, but that's
Mm-hmm.
technical. That's technical stuff. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
someone comes to you. They see
Mm-hmm.
nutritionists. They're seeing a healthcare provider to check their vitals as such,
Mm-hmm.
and you're
Mm-hmm.
talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
What is some of the therapy that you do? Like, what do you do with the log? What if they
Mm-hmm.
have experienced trauma, like something
Mm-hmm.
that has? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, say for instance, like trauma is a contributor to the eating disorder, right? We kind of undercover that is why they're clinging to control with food, right?
And now, can
Then
you
I
define trauma for me though, Lindsay? Because that is a broad term. What
that
is your
very good
definition
question.
of trauma?
Ooh, trauma. It it has to be, I don't know if I can put like an exact definition, but it
Mm,
has to be something that's, impactful to that person. Okay? You and I could experience something, but it might be more impactful for you than it could be for me. So
yeah,
I'm I'm very much like I'm going to meet you where you're at and you're going to tell me how that was, right? Now like again, we can get into like a diagnosis of post traumatic stress disorder, right? And of course that would be caused by um, something that happened to them, right? That would cause flashbacks,
yeah,
having a hard time sleeping, distress with thinking about the event,
yeah.
you know, that would equate a traumatic
Hmm.
event, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I also like don't want people to be like, oh, but it wasn't that bad, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Hmm.
what do you do with it?
Yeah. So I am trained in an eye movement therapy. I don't know if you know much about eye
Yeah,
movement
a little bit.
therapy.
I'd love to
Yeah.
hear more. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, we're getting to everything today, hey? Um, so I'm trained in accelerated resolution therapy, and basically what it uses is bilateral eye movements. So essentially what happens is that the client with any trauma therapy, essentially what the evidence speaks to is that when you're exposed at least two times to the traumatic event, it takes the trauma memory from the amygdala in your brain. The
Mhm,
amygdala is the part that is in control of your fight or flight,
mhm.
freeze type of, and it moves it out of there to more of the filing cabinet part of your brain. So I work with the post traumatic stress with the eye movements in exposure with processing that. Hopefully that explains it, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but what's the difference with what you're doing then and REMD, EMRD, EM
Oh,
something?
EMDR,
Yeah, AMDR. I knew there were I had the
EMDR.
letters right. EMDR.
You
Yes.
did. You had the letters right.
Okay.
You're good. It is. I've actually talked to a few EMDR therapists. So, I don't know everything about EMDR, but EMDR also uses bilateral eye
Yes.
stimulation. They have very similar concepts.
Okay.
There are some similar things. The process is just different.
Okay.
But they very much, are both very effective.
Okay.
Yeah, EMDR is fantastic. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I
Yeah.
come to you and you're like, okay, I'm going to do some stuff with your eyes. And you're talking, I know it's not that simple, but
Yeah.
we bring up the trauma. Is that discussed or is that thought of and you're working with them? Can you give a little bit more detail as far as
Mhm.
how, because it's, people might not necessarily know what their disorder is as such, or, working on that relationship. How do they know necessarily what is stimulating it or triggering it, or how do you get to that?
Yeah, so in the actual trauma therapy, what I do love about my therapy is that you actually don't have to tell me what happened. So that's really nice for some folks that, right, it's too much. And so what they do is they imagine the traumatic incident in their brain while they follow my hand with the eye movements and we process it that way. It's also very we don't move forward until you're calm because the eye movements are very calming. We take breaks in between. So that's what I like about it as well. It, of course, is very hard work. It's very brave work for folks to do. But that can be sometimes a contributor to a disordered eating. So in the eye movements, they also have an opportunity to kind of have some reconciliation with what happened. And there's some moments where they can actually have a sense of justice for themselves with the eye movements. Like imagine, you know, some type of justice if they've been through something where they were harmed, right? And so they can do that. And I find that also very powerful too. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
keep going. Tell me
Yeah.
more about this
So
justice. I'm curious.
so for instance, if someone say if there is if they were abused as a child, in one part of the eye movement therapy, they can imagine someone rescuing them. They can imagine maybe
Okay.
their older self coming and rescuing their past selves. They can
So
have
do
imagine
you
someone intervening.
do you initiate that? Because you didn't hear what they were like. You're not hearing what they're imagining. So are you
Yeah,
initiating kind of now imagine someone or some?
yeah, generally, like, I have an idea. Most folks I've been working with for a while, and I kind of have an idea of what they're going, or they tell me most of it. Generally, most of the time, I do know what's happening. So
Okay.
then I ask them, I say, what kind of how would you wanna change that? What does your past self need, right? In that moment, right? Um, do you want to imagine like Jesus coming and wrapping his arms around you and saying like I'm going to protect you here in this moment, right? What is something that you need there? And I usually say like ask your brain what it needs and it will come up with what you
Yeah.
need there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
I've done some informed training myself as a
Mm.
foster parent.
Oh, okay.
And some of this totally resonates, but I'm also thinking
Mhm.
of like, I know when a child is neglected as a
Mhm.
newborn, right? And that
Mhm.
nurturing, that help holding, that bonding doesn't happen. It can actually happen when they're older,
Yes.
right? So you could hold a
Mhm.
grown child and re-nurture them as such
Yes.
and give them that same stimuli that they should have received as a newborn. So
Mhm.
I'm imagining
Mhm.
even kind of the same kind of idea done a little bit differently with what you're saying, that there's a healing to the body, to, correct me if I'm wrong, to its original or
Mhm.
natural or I don't know if I should use it, but healthy state. Right?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Mhm.
Like, is it, talk about what's happening? Like, because you stopped me kind of with the term healthy earlier.
Oh, yeah.
What
Yeah.
is that balance then, that they're healing from that
Mhm.
trauma, but
Mhm.
when is someone healed and what is going on in the brain that is corrected? I don't know if I'm using the right words or not now.
You're doing no, there's no
Okay.
worry. Again, all is
Okay.
grace.
Yeah.
We're all muddling through it. That's what I
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
Yes. No, okay, so to answer your question, so you're asking like
Sorry, I asked of three or
what
four there probably,
yeah.
but yeah.
The one question was how do you see healing? Sorry,
Yes.
I can go back and I can define healthy. and then
Yes.
I'll do that. Is that okay?
Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So I am a practitioner that is trained in the concept and the theory of there is health at every size. So the acronym is HAZE. So
Okay.
we can have health at every size, right? So just by looking at someone, you can't determine their health just by the size of their body. That's what I mean by health, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So we can have health in many different ways, right? It's not just what we eat, right? It's our emotional, it's our physical strength, it's our spiritual lives, it's how we talk to ourselves. There is lots of different nuances to health, right? So that's why I use
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
term. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and then so we'll flip back to trauma therapy. So with trauma therapy, what we want to kind of the goal is we want to take away the post-traumatic stress symptoms, right? So my goal is that when we do the eye movement therapy is that someone thinks back to the event and they aren't so emotionally um, triggered by it, that it doesn't bring them into that fight or flight, that doesn't bring them
Hmm.
anxiety or distress,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But yes, like I do, my clients will like, I do a lot of going back to our past selves and our younger selves,
Yeah.
and they're always with us, and they come out at different times, right? And they come out as we're understanding why they're coming out at different
Yeah.
times, right? It might be because of a past trauma, right? It might be that. And so it's really powerful to go back and to give those messages that we needed to hear when we were younger,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
to do that healing.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
So, oh man, you are just like opening cans of worms for me. Especially, well, do you see more women than men?
Yeah.
And what age
Yes.
group?
Um, I see probably about it's 18 to 60. Yeah. Wide
Okay.
range. Yeah.
Oh, 60s.
Mhm.
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and is that because that's your choice? Like, are parents bringing children at like 8 or 9 to therapy
Yes.
as well?
Yes. Yeah. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm just like thinking of all kinds of things
Yeah.
because you said, health is determined by a whole lot of things.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
you're a parent, I'm a
Mhm.
parent, right? We
Mhm.
care about the health of our children and we don't
Mhm.
necessarily know why or how or what's going on.
Mhm.
So, how would I, if I was considering or someone was wondering kind of if they were struggling in this space, if if there was a trigger, like we knew that food was a difficulty already for them,
Mhm.
younger or
Mhm.
older,
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
how would I walk alongside them as a Christian woman
Mhm.
to help them figure that out? Because
As the
not
parent or as
either. Like
okay.
I have
Mhm.
grown children now, right?
Mhm.
So my youngest
Mhm.
is, oh, I better not say, I'm so bad with ages. 22, no, she's going to be 22. I don't know. Anyways, they're adults,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? But at the same time, I'm thinking of when they were children or younger, like how,
Mhm.
because not everybody needs to go to you.
Pers-
Like
yeah.
not
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
needs therapy, but some
No.
of us. So
No.
just help me walk
Mhm.
through how could we be aware that there is something that is working against them or
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
let me figure this out. I have to get the right question.
It's okay.
There are people that know that they struggle with food,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And they will admit
Mhm.
that. So
Mhm.
how could I walk
Mhm.
alongside that person with a good understanding as a Christian? I really want to understand that, from either examples from in the Bible that you have, or even just
Yeah.
understanding Christ
Mhm.
and how he walked the earth
Mhm.
and the character of
Mhm.
God. How could I walk alongside someone as a Christian woman with their struggle that they've admitted to me with food?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Um, I think we first need to think about your body is a temple, right? And coming from that perspective, because I've seen that verse be used, unfortunately, in a diet culture way, right?
And I probably have
Yeah.
myself, Lindsay.
We
Like,
all have
Lord,
done.
forgive
We
me.
all no, but we all have. I did too.
Yeah,
I did too before I did this work. Okay, you don't know until you know, right?
yeah,
And so I would say that if as a Christian helping someone, I think looking at that verse and saying your body is a temple right now. You don't have to change anything about it. It is a temple right now in this moment. It doesn't, there's not one plus, there's not like caveats to that or that you need to earn that by looking a certain way or doing certain things. It's a temple right now because Jesus said your body is good, right? And so that is my message to that's from my baseline when someone walks into my office is that their body is good. So your body is fearfully and wonderfully made. So we need to come from that perspective as a baseline no matter what that person is doing, right? If we come from right there, then the rest flows from there from I think, right? So then we can listen and we can understand what's going on if we already think that that body is fearfully and wonderfully made, right? Right now we don't have to earn it. So it's a big question to answer, I think, but, like, for a child, you have to it's important to look at, the reasons why, right? So if we have an autistic child, their way of eating in this world is different in a sensory and in a way that they regulate and stay safe, right? So for autistic folks or for children, who are neurodivergent, textures and food can be really triggering. And so they might have to eat the same thing all the time, right? Or it has to be very predictable.
mhm,
So we need to be careful about calling that disordered eating, right? Because it's actually what their brain needs,
yeah,
right? If that makes so
yeah,
there's so many different
yeah,
sections here, right? So for a
yeah,
child, we're figuring out is are they neuro I would investigate that first, are
mhm,
they neurodivergent?
mhm,
Is that there? And then with a child, how can you walk alongside being neutral about food? That's being neutral. So just watching language, learning new language about not calling food good or bad. And going back to just encouraging eating and that food is a gift and that we making sure that again we're not like putting judgments on what we're eating.
mhm.
Sorry, does that answer your question?
Yeah, sort of. I think I'd love for you to
Yeah.
go deeper because
Okay.
yeah, I think we have said that even though there's neutrality in food,
Mhm.
it's not that we can just eat everything and continually eat,
Mhm.
right? There's a relationship still with food. So
Mhm.
if I'm walking alongside someone, I can't say, please, food is not good or bad. Enjoy all food.
Mhm.
Absolutely, I can say that. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you know, that's what their struggle is. So what do I say next? And, even understanding that the
Mhm.
body is fearfully and wonderfully made, we are tainted by sin still
Mhm.
too. So yeah, go deeper with me, Lindsay.
Well, like, I think it also just depends on what they're struggling with,
Okay.
right? With
Yes.
foods. So if you're walking alongside someone with an eating disorder with, say, anorexia,
Yeah.
right? In treatment, we focus on all food is good and food is fuel.
Yeah.
And we don't put so then you're encouraged so then if someone has an eating disorder, you're encouraging them that all food is good for them right now because they have a lot of rules in their head,
I think you just
right?
nailed it right
Yeah.
now. Right? I think that's what we need to hear because
Mhm.
we're all in different spaces. And if I think
Mhm.
of football players who are pounding down whatever and whoever to get their calories and whatever else, right? Right now, that's what they need.
Yeah.
And for someone that's
Mhm.
struggling with anorexia, right now, they need nourishment.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really helpful. All right,
Mhm.
carry on.
Yeah. So all food is good, right? All food is good, all food is fuel. That's what across the line, that's what recovery focuses on, right? So yes, we are celebrating when maybe the restrictive kind of rules are that I can't eat chips, right?
Mhm,
And they're having a bag of chips. That's a win, right? That we're able to do that.
mhm.
Um, but again, it depends again now if it's with someone who is neurodivergent who struggles with sensory issues, then you're just encouraging them to seek their safe foods and say that's okay, right? That those are your safe foods because of the way that your brain works and what you need, right? Um, if someone maybe who's just struggling with body image comes to you and says, I really am struggling with my body, right? I want to go on a diet. I'm wondering if um it's more empathetic. I think it's more empathetic listening and maybe not encouraging a diet and saying like it's really important to fuel your body and to have energy, right? And to encourage eating and encourage not restricting in those ways, right? Um,
Yeah, I
yeah, I hope
really
I
appreciate it. I
answered.
think you just
Yeah,
spoke. I'm just aware of the time. I'm
yeah.
gonna have you back on, Lindsay, because this is just so good, so rich, and so informative as well. And I appreciate even, oh, what was the term that you used? It was so good for the neurodivergent child.
Hmm.
Did you say comfort?
Safe foods.
Safe food for them
Yeah,
because there's a
yeah.
response to it. So I can even think of a little girl that we had in her home, and
Hmm.
she did not like oatmeal
Okay.
and the texture of oatmeal. That I kind of say oatmeal because everything that kind of whatever else, but it
Hmm.
took me a little while to understand that.
Hmm.
And after a while, like when I kind of introduced those foods that kind of had that slimy texture, her
Hmm.
character changed.
Mm.
Right. So there's a safe, like I could see her being traumatized as
Yeah.
such that Aunt Hildy
Hmm.
put this in front of her again. And like I had to learn this, of course, what was going on. But I think that
Hmm.
that's what you're getting at. Then it was safe. Huh, she was relaxed when I gave her something that maybe had a bit more crunch or something to that fact matter. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I just love it. And
Hmm.
I think then for the adult that is anorexic, the food relationship, of course, is different. It's all food, it's settings, it's words around the food, and so many things that are
Hmm.
impeding into their brain, and that log
Hmm.
is probably just bouncing around them, terrifying them, I guess, in some way.
Well, it's helping them cope, right? And we're finding different ways to cope in different ways, right? Is
Okay.
essentially it,
Okay,
right? Yeah.
okay. If it's okay, Lindsay, I'd love to have you back on because I feel like I didn't even look down at my paper for the questions that I had. So let's
For
just
sure.
end this one
Hmm.
with one encouragement to the church. Like if people are only able to hear this one podcast with you about eating disorder, please let me know how you can encourage the church. Uh, yeah, with your experience and your wisdom. What do you want the church to know?
Hmm. Ooh, that's a big question. Um,
Sorry. Break it down a little
yeah,
bit then maybe.
yeah. Can I speak to those who are listening right now directly to their bodies?
If you feel
Yeah,
that's a good word, that's
yeah,
the best. You have a lot more
yeah.
experience and wisdom.
Okay.
So yeah.
I would love to speak to anyone who's listening right now in the church about just that their body is a temple right now, right? And you don't have to change or do anything differently right now. It's worthy right now. Um, in God's eyes, it's always fearfully and wonderfully made. It is good, right? That's what my message is. Yeah.
Because God, the creator, created it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And he sees and he
Yeah.
knows you where you are at this
Mhm.
time. And
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm. It's worthy right now. Yeah.
yeah. And we're all on a journey. So we're
Mhm.
all, oh, bless you, Lindsay. I'm a bit overwhelmed, to be absolutely
Oh,
honest. And
sorry.
in a good way, in a good way. I was really
Okay.
excited to talk to you about
Mhm.
this because I know the different influences and I want to be aware. I want to walk
Mhm.
alongside my brothers and sisters with hope
Yeah.
and with good
Yeah.
narratives and mitigate as much of the, what kind of culture did you say it was? Diet
Diet
culture,
culture.
right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is in our face and around us and yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I don't want anyone to walk away feeling fearful, right? Like
yes,
again, we only know what we know. If you are curious, if you want to learn just like you are, if you're sitting down and saying like wanting to know, that is the most like that's what my clients beg is they this is why I'm here today because they say please can you create more awareness
yeah,
of what's going on,
yeah,
right? And so if you just have an open mind to want to learn,
yeah,
you're there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's growing and changing. So because we have so many
Mhm.
more images in front of us. Bless you,
Mhm.
Lindsay. I hope I can follow up with you again and we'll go a
For
little
sure.
shorter because I'm totally taking way too much of your time.
That's
But
okay.
may the Lord bless you and may he continue just to use your wisdom, your experiences, and all the people that have taught you to
Mhm.
strengthen the church well, to care for the body of Christ and our bodies well, that,
Mm.
that we would truly have the mind that we are fearfully and wonderfully made in his image. So bless you.
Mm.
Thank you very much, Lindsay.